I'm going to apologize in advance for the quality of this video. I'm making it at my desk at the office. This video is covering pages 415 and 416 of the textbook, the Access Project 1 and Project 2 in Chapter 13. I'm going to start off by opening up Access and a blank database. I'm going to give it a location and a name. So the book says that you ought to name the file C13-project 1-listings and then your name. Okay, then I'm going to select a folder where it's going to be located at. I'm going to place this on the desktop. Click OK, and then the last step is to click the Create button. So now I have a blank database. Now the first step in here is add the following fields to the blank Table 1 datasheet in addition to the default ID field. Here's the default ID field. The first field that we're going to add is sold date, and it's a date and time field. So I'm going to click to add date and time. I'm going to type sold date, and then it says that this has a caption of date sold. So I tell you what, I'm going to put all the captions on at one time. I'm just going to go ahead and hit enter and go to the next field. The next field is a currency field, so I select currency, and then I'm going to type sale price. I'm going to hit enter again. The next field is commission, and it is a number type field. So I select number, and I'm going to type commission. Okay, I'm going to hit enter again. And then we have one final field in this table, selling agent, and it's a short text field. So I click short text and selling agent. And I hit enter. Okay, that's all the fields for the table, but we need to take care of this caption thing. And what a caption is it's a way for the table to display in the datasheet view a different name than what the actual field name is. Maybe one that's easier to read or makes more sense. So I'm going to go back to sold date and select it. And then up here on the Table Tools tabs, I've got fields. Name and caption is one of the fields. So I'm going to type for this caption, date sold, with a space in it. Alright, so it changes here, but the field name is still the same. Okay, for sale price, it's supposed to be sale price with a space in it. So name and caption, sale price, and OK. Alright, with commission, it's supposed to be commission rate. So name and caption, commission rate. Okay, selling agent is selling agent with a space in it. So name and caption, selling agent. And I click OK. Now it says the next step, step 3, adjust the column width so that all column headings are clearly visible. Well, the way it showed to do this in the text was a little bit harder than what I'm going to do. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hover between the two column headings there, or field headings, and I'm going to double click, and that's going to expand it to the right size. Okay, it says save the table as sales and then close the table. So I'm going to right click on save, and I'm going to use the name sales and then OK. Now I could have clicked on this save button up here and it would have done the same thing, but to me it's a lot easier to do everything right inside this area here. Okay, step 5, create a new table in Design View. Use the following field names and data types. Alright, everything we create is on the Create tab. Now if I were to click on Table, it would give me one of these ID fields again. If I click on Table Design, I'll get just a blank table in the Design View. Let me close this table that I've got open still. Now I'm going to click on Table Design. Okay, we're in the Design View now. Now, The difference between the design view and the datasheet view, we created that last table in the datasheet view. Each table has both views, but when you're just setting up the structure of the table, a lot of times the design view is a whole lot easier to use. So if I look in step 5, I have the field names and the data types there. So I'm going to start with the first field name, listing ID. Okay, the data type is short text, which is the default. If I hit the tab key 2 more times, it takes me to the next field name location. Agent ID, okay, it's also short text. Then street ADD for street address, it's short text. Client L name, short text again. Client F name, short text again. List date, and that one's a date time field, so I'm going to have to use the drop down here and go down for date time. Okay, ask price. All right, that one's going to be a currency field. And then we have home type, and that one's going to be short text. So then the next step, step 6, says make listing ID the primary key field. Now in a database, a primary key is what makes sure that every record is different. If you ever tried to enter the same primary key more than one time, the Access will prevent you from doing it. So in this table, the field that we're going to make our primary key that always has to be different for every row we add to the database, I'm going to click on primary key. I'm going to select listing ID, click on primary key, and there, that little symbol, that means that's the primary key for the table. Okay, it says to save this table, calling it listings. I'm going to click OK. Alright, create a third table. So let's close this one and go to the Create tab, Table Design again. It's going to use the following field names, and the names are Agent ID, L name, and F name. Okay, they're all short text. So, Agent ID, then L name, and then F name. Alright, it says save the table as agents and close the table, but it also said that agent ID is going to be the primary key. So select agent ID, click on primary key. I'm going to close it, but I'm going to save it first. Agents. Alright, now I'm going to close it. Okay, it says for us to leave the database open if we're continuing to project 2, and we are. So the first thing in project 2 is step 2. Step 1 was just to open the file name. I'm not going to resave this. They have you do that. I'm going to leave the same file name. You know, I don't care how it is when you turn it in, as long as I can tell that it's your database file. So step 2 is open the listings table. Make the client F name the active field. So I click on it so it's the active field. And then it says add a new short text field named contact phone. Well, you'd have had to do this in the step-by-step in the chapter to understand what they're telling you to do. But if I click up here on the Fields tab and I go over and click Short Text, it's going to insert that field in there. And we're going to give it the name Contact Phone. Alright, and then I'm going to hit enter so that it gets added. Okay, it says switch to the design view. Okay, so earlier I was talking about this. Let's save this first And now I come up here. This is the data sheet view right now. This is where we would enter records at. If I want to go to the design view, which just shows the structure of the table, I click on this button. Alright, I'm in the design view. It says create a drop-down list for the home type field with the following list entries and make single family home the default value. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up this drop-down listing. And what that is, we use something called a lookup wizard. Okay, we get two choices here. We can either use a lookup field from another table, or we can type in the values that we want. I'm going to type in the values I want. I'm going to click next. Okay, when this opens up, I can add the things that are in step 3. So the first one is single family home. Okay, then I'm going to click in the next one. Don't hit enter. If you hit enter, you'll end up going to the next step in this thing. So the second one's condominium. The next one is townhouse. Next one is duplex. Next one is triplex. Next one is fourplex. And then the final one is other. Okay, I've got all the entries made. So I'm going to go ahead and click finish. And I'm going to come down here where we have a default value. Click in there, and I'm going to add single family home, just like I typed in the drop down list. Now, if you wanted to look at the text you entered to make sure you didn't make any errors, or when you viewed the table you found out you made errors, instead of trying to go through that process we did again, you can click on lookup whenever the field's selected, and that'll show you all the stuff that you typed in. Now, Access puts quotation marks around it because that indicates that it's a text string. But you can go in here and edit these if you have misspellings or something. So I'm going to save this so it saves the changes that I made, and I'm going to go back to the datasheet view, and now look over here. We've got home type, and it's got a default value of single family home in it, and then if I click in it, I can select all those other choices that I made. Alright, it says to adjust the column widths as needed so that all column headings are entirely visible. So let's see which ones aren't visible. And I'm just going down and editing all of them. Alright, I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to close it. Okay, step 5 says to open the sales table. And it says to add a new yes/no field named SplitCom at the end of the table. So I'm going to go to the end of the table, and I'm going to click on Click to Add, and I'm going to select yes/no, and then I'm going to type SplitCom. Now you might wonder why I didn't use this stuff. Let me hit enter first here. You might wonder why I didn't use this like I did the last time. It's because this one was already at the end of the table, so we didn't have to insert anything between any other fields in here. Okay, let's see. It says adjust the column width to show the entire thing. And it says to give a caption of split commission. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to come up here to name and caption. I'm going to type in split commission, put a question mark, OK. Now I'm going to come back up here and adjust the width so we can read it. It says to switch to the design view, so I'm going to save this, switch to the design view, It says make commission the active field. I'm going to click on commission so it's the active field. It says change the following field properties. Type 0.05 as the default value. Okay, change the field size to double. So I'm going to use the drop down here. It says change the decimal places to 2. So I'm going to use the drop down, change that to 2. Change the format to %. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to change the format to %. I'm going to save this. Okay. It says change the field name of the ID field to listing ID. So listing ID, and change the data type from auto number to short text. Short text. Save and close the sales table. Save, close. Alright, step 9 is where I'm at now, and it says add the following captions to the fields in the agents table, and then adjust column widths in datasheet view so that all column headings are entirely visible. Close the table, saving changes to the layout. So I'm going to open up the agents table. I'm going to open it in the design view. Now, before we showed you how to change the captions using the data sheet view, where we had a tab up here that we had captions on. When we're in the design view, if we select a field, we can come down here to the property sheet and put the caption in. It does the same thing. So agent ID for that field. Okay, agent. Sorry about that. Typing in the wrong place there. Agent last name. And for this one, agent first name. Alright, now if I go back to the datasheet view, first I need to save this. If I go back to the datasheet view, now we can see that I've got all those new captions in there. So I'm just going to adjust these so that they're wide enough to read the whole entry. That takes us to step 10. It says add a new record in the agents table with your name and with 10 as the agent ID. So 10, I'm going to put my last name and my first name. Okay, I'm going to save this and I'm going to close it. Right, step 11 says add the following record to the listings table. So I'm going to open the listings table. The record listing ID is 2015-1. I'm going to tab over to the next field. Agent ID is 10. I'm going to tab over to the next field. Street address is 98 First Street. I'm going to tab over to client name, and then the last name is Jones. I'm going to tab over to client first name, or client F name. First name is Marion. Tab to contact phone, and it's 800-555-3225. I'm going to tab over for listing date, and it's 03/15/2015. I'm going to tab over to the asking price field. It's $87,500. I'm going to tab over, and the home type is condominium, so I'm going to use the drop down list and select condominium. Okay, I'm going to save that and I'm going to close it. Step 12 has us add something to the sales table. So I'm going to open the sales table. Listing ID is 2015-1. Okay, if I tab over to the date sold field, it's 3/22/2015. Now, if you'll notice that little calendar thing is open there, you could actually click on that and navigate around and select a date rather than typing it in. I'm going to tab over to sale price, and it's going to be $82,775. I'm going to tab over to commission rate. Okay, we're going to leave that at 5%. I'm going to tab to selling agent, and I'm going to put 10 in there. I'm going to tab to split commission, and the answer is yes. So I can either hit the space bar or click on the box, either one. All right, I'm going to hit tab one more time, which is going to save that record. I'm going to save the table, and I'm going to close the table. Now, by all rights, that table should have been saved when I hit tab, but I'm kind of nervous about things like that, so I always take every opportunity to save. Okay, step 13 says to display each table sheet in print preview and then create a PDF. You don't have to do this. I don't want you to turn that in. All I want you to turn in is the database. So when you've finished it like this, here's what I want you to do. Click on the File tab, click on Compact and Repair. Okay, that closes everything down in the database. It gets rid of any extra storage that's been added for things that we might have messed up creating or that we might have deleted. Okay, you'll notice that after it's opened, it's closed and reopened, this Enable Contents on. Whenever you're working on an Access database, you need to make sure that you enable that before you start working on the database, because there's some features in Access that will not work unless you enable that. That's a safety feature, so if you download a database from the internet, you kind of have a reminder there that there could be bad things. Alright, at this point this exercise is done, so all you would do now is close it, and then here's where I put my file. That's what you would submit into Blackboard. I hope this has been helpful.